No, this isn't living with a man. This is living with an inconsiderate man who weaponizes food against you. Much like the story that went viral not that long ago, this woman who made this big, huge pan of macaroni and cheese and asked her husband to save her some. So he saved her the tiniest bit imaginable. Or the other story that went viral recently of the woman who told her man, I'm trying to make a couple of meals to last this week, and she made 12 pork chops. And in one sitting for dinner, that man ate 6 and then packed 3 for his lunch the next day. If he was still hungry, he could have made a sandwich or a bowl of cereal, but instead of lightening her load, he made it heavier. Because you have to understand and identify when you're with a man, is he making your life easier or harder? Beware of men who don't want to see you relax. He doesn't want the meals pre-cooked where you can just warm it up and you can sit next to him and relax. No, he's got to hear you in there rattling those pots and pans around. Makes him feel like a man. It's not a coincidence when your man always seems to sabotage you. Men who constantly make you late for work, or the men who you're splitting bills with, taking their time to give you their half of the rent. Unemployed man that you're currently supporting picks you up late, or who gives you your car back with no gas in it. Part of truly loving someone is considering them. So watch out for men who show you that they're being inconsiderate when it comes to you. That man is probably not going to tell you to your face that he hates you, but if you look close enough, his actions might.
I am so glad we're talking about men weaponizing food in household. This is one of the main reasons I'm so glad I will never have to have a man in my house. Because men feel entitled to the food of the house and will exhibit a level of control over it that can become so extreme in nature that even other people within the household will starve at the expense of men having more food in the house. For example, everybody may get 2 pieces of chicken, but suddenly your father or your older brother is getting 4 pieces each. And these people might not even eat all this food, or they force themselves to eat all this food in an effort to exert some type of dominance or control over the food source in all. And if ever you raise your voice to say, hey, some of us also need to eat, suddenly the providing is thrown back in your face. And this man might not have even bought this food. Typically, it's the women of the household buying the groceries. And in the modern day and age, it's also their money being used to do it. But especially if you're a child speaking up to, say, an older male relative, they will use not only their added years as justification, but also the fact that they may be a growing boy or a grown man. And even the women of the house may be told to limit what they're eating or be given these rude notions whenever they're making a plate, insinuating that they should have less food on theirs. And this, of course, comes at the expense of sacrificing the less food for others to have more food on the basis of sex within one family unit's household. And it goes beyond even just at the dinner table. Even if you bring food home for yourself, these same men will eat your food. They know it's yours. I remember having to leave labels on my food. I remember having to hide food just so the men of the household wouldn't use food as a resource by which to further oppress you, especially if that was something normalized in the household. And they will eat things you spent your hard-earned money for, and they'll be like, I'll pay you back though, but it still doesn't replace the labor of you having to go and get, and sometimes even food you've cooked for yourself they will eat. And this is why it's important to teach your sons how to cook for themselves so they don't automatically become a nuisance and a pest wherever they go, and also become a heightened abuser because of how they view food, especially through the lens of the fact that they cannot prepare their own. Living amongst men, you really get to see how they are and their selfishness and what aspects of life will bring it up. It's important to make sure you have a selfless partner, especially when that partner is a man, especially if you are trying to raise a family with him, because he will starve you and your children out as long as it means his belly is full.
So I saw that we were talking about how men weaponize food, and I have a couple of stories to tell. So first off, my son's father, of course, red flag that I ignored, was prior to us moving in together. I was pregnant, and he would always tell me to like quit my job. He's like, the only working I want you to be doing is barefoot in the kitchen, making dinner while carrying our baby. Yeah, I fell for it. And to make a long story short, I wasn't cooking enough for him because I would cook every other day. We have a meal. There's leftovers in the fridge. You eat whatever's left over in the fridge. But he decided he didn't want to eat leftovers. Some days he would literally expect me to cook every day. And he expected that because before we lived together, he lived with his mom who did that for him. And Wonderful Woman, I love her cooking, but you can't expect your mom out of me. Like, that's actually crazy. Not to mention that I would be cooking with our son in my hands, asleep on my chest, because if I put him in his crib, he will wake back up. Like, you're not even helping me with the baby, and you want me to be cooking for you every day. And also that Wonderful Woman would cook. Like, we would probably visit her like once a month, and she would cook like a week's worth of food. So that we would come home with food in our fridge and even food in our pantries. Like, she gave us stuff to cook with, and he wouldn't eat it. He literally wanted me in the kitchen cooking new meals for him every single day, while also taking care of our baby and cleaning up after his dog and cleaning up after him, and also trying to take care of myself within all of that. And I also feel like I have to add, when I was pregnant, yeah, he paid for the groceries. But after our son came, not only did I have SNAP benefits, but I was the one going to the grocery store with the baby, pushing the baby to the grocery store with me, filling up the stroller with groceries, and walking back to our house. So you couldn't even use you providing the groceries as an excuse. So I got out of that situation, and now I found myself in this same situation with my brother because we all live with my mom. And I guess I didn't care so much before because it was really only affecting me, but now it affects my son. So now we have an issue. For example, I don't really cook meals no more because there was one day I spent like 4 hours in the kitchen. When I tell you there weren't even leftovers the next day. Oh, it was so good. It was so good that y'all couldn't even leave enough for me to get a second plate. The person who was in the kitchen slaving for hours making this food. I make rice because my son doesn't eat that much. He eats chicken nuggets. He eats rice. So I make a full pot of rice, feed him, put him down for a nap, go back to the pot that is still on the stove, by the way. Pot still on the stove, empty, because all the rice was eaten up. You can even have the decency to put the pot in the sink, so at least I would know that all the shit that I made is gone. I was trying not to cuss, but that's how livid it makes me, that like I will spend my time going to get groceries, cooking food, just for it to be eaten up when I'm ready to eat it. If you eat bread, why don't you buy bread? Why do you wait until I buy bread to eat all the bread in the house? And then wait until I buy bread again and do the same thing. You don't even buy it yourself. That doesn't make any sense. Being so bougie that you're using the water bottles that I buy, picked up the flat at the grocery store, put it in the car, drove home, took the flat water bottles out of the car, bought them in the house, and you're using water bottles to boil water. Like, it's just beyond me. And then have the audacity to say that I'm a child stuck in a grown adult's body. But who's acting like a child? So yeah, it really just saddens me that I went from one bad situation to another bad situation. And it sucks that I'm dealing with it with family. Like, don't think that this can only happen with a partner or a boyfriend or a husband, whatever the case may be. It can happen within your family too.
There's a really great conversation happening right now on my For You page, thanks to this creator who talks about how men weaponize food to inflict abuse within their home. And there's a bigger conversation happening around patriarchy and the rhetoric that we use that pacifies and encourages boys to be gluttonous, inconsiderate, and weaponize willful ignorance to enforce the girls in their home to do more labor. And all of this conversation makes me think about how at the tender age of like 12 or 13, I put my foot down and made up in my mind that I was going to be a woman who did not cook or clean for a man. Very early age. And I never really, I knew the specific reason why, but now that this conversation is happening, I'm like, oh my God, this is the root, the why, because of living in a household where, so I have an older brother, he's 2 years older than me. We were raised by a single mom. I was the only girl child. We learned how to cook around the same time. My brother and I used to have an alternating schedule on who would do dishes. And many times when it was his night to do dishes, if my mother did not cook, she would say, oh, I'm going to bring something home for work, or you guys heat up a microwave meal. But somehow, some way, when it was always my night to do dishes, she would either cook or she'd say, oh, I took this out of the refrigerator to be cooked. And usually it was an unspoken rule that I was the person that had the responsibility to cook. So right there, from an early age, I did used to complain to my mom all the time, like, he never cooks, or when it's his night to do dishes, you either don't cook or he will somehow go to sleep early if I cook, and well, you cook so you do the dishes. And then it would mess up our schedule because then my mom would say, well, I'll make sure that he does the dishes tomorrow since he didn't do the dishes on his night. And I would be like, okay, that means that he has to do the dishes tomorrow on my night and then again on his night the next day. But they would always lead up to an argument. So then my mom put us on an alternating week schedule where one week I would do the dishes, the next week he would do the dishes. But somehow, some way, when it was his week, he always found a way to either not do dishes or somehow that week she just cooked less. I don't think my mom was doing it intentionally, but I noticed the pattern very young. So it used to make me really, really upset. And then, I don't really have a lot of instances with my older brother eating my food or things, but my brother did play sports. He did eat a lot, and just in general, we've experienced homelessness. So there were times where what was enough was enough. If you wanted seconds, you better hope that there was something left in that pan because my mom did not cook a lot. She cooked enough for us to eat for the night. Sometimes we would have leftovers. We were a family of 3. And she did not make that much money. But what really made me put my foot down, and I'm telling you from an early age, I was just like, I'm never cooking for a man. I'm never cleaning up behind a man. I was like 12 or 13. And I went to go spend the night at a friend's house. The next day, my mom calls me. It's like the evening, I think. She's like, come home now, going off on me, cursing me out. So I'm scared because I'm like, okay, I don't know. Now, mind you, I only lived down the street because we lived in the same apartment complex. So it was like a 5-minute walk to my house. I get home and my mom looks me in my face and tells me, why are there dishes in my sink? I'm looking at her like, I don't know, girl, because I wasn't here last night. Like, why are there dishes in your sink? Because I made sure my dishes were done when I left to go spend the night at my friend's house. She went off on me so bad, and I was like, that's not fair. Like, my brother's home, my older cousin was home. Why didn't you ask them to do the dishes? Why did you call me from having fun at my friend's house to come home and clean up after people who were here and very capable? Their hands work. I'm a petty tourist. Do y'all know? Because when I say I was crying tears as I'm washing the dishes, so upset, I took one of the glass plates my mom had and I slammed it down in the sink and I broke it. And I think at the time, I don't know if she was at the house, if she had left at the house, or maybe she was in her room so she didn't hear it. But I broke the plate and then I put it in the trash and I took the trash out. So we went from having 4 glass plates to 3, or maybe 3 glass plates to 2, I think. But I was so upset, and that was the moment that I was like, I'm never cleaning up after a man. And that's why, as a grown woman now, if I don't cook, I'm not cleaning it up. If I don't eat whatever's cooked, I'm not cleaning it up. Unless I'm feeling in a good mood to cook for everybody, I would rather buy everyone food and take out. So even when I live alone, I do cook a little bit more when I live alone versus living in a household with other people. But I have become a woman who is very okay with takeout. And from a really early age, I was telling my mom at 6 years old, oh, I'm going to have a husband who cooks because I don't like to cook. I've literally been saying that since I was 6. And when I did start cooking, I really genuinely did not like to cook. It does not please me. I eat to sustain myself. So when I get off of work, I be tired. I work with kids. So no, I'm not coming home to cook shit. I'm going to go pick up some McDonald's. I'm going to pick up some Popeyes. I'm going to go to Whole Foods and get a meal I could pop in the microwave. I don't like to cook. And so now I'm thinking about it like that. That's my anchor story on why I really don't like to cook and why I have decided if I was to ever get married, my husband needs to know how to cook, because you can trust and believe you will starve. You will starve. You need to know how to cook because you're going to cook for me. Roles reverse, bitch. So anyways, yes, I love this conversation that's happening. Made me think about my own story and I just had to share it.
Oh, I heard we were telling stories about how men weaponize food. Can I share my experience? So many years ago, I met someone. This should have been the first red flag. He approached me under false pretenses. He approached me under the guise of wanting professional help, like wanting me to help him in some way. But he really just didn't have the courage to just come right out and ask me to go on a date with him. Okay, so a liar. As things progressed, it was a very short-lived relationship. As things progressed, though, I realized that there's something very wrong with this person. So to give more background, at the time I was collecting unemployment. I was not working. I was freelancing, so I was in between freelance gigs and I was eligible to collect unemployment. He had a full-time job and was employed. So my budget was tight. So when I bought groceries, and I've always been a person that I will cook a bunch of food on like a Saturday or Sunday, pack it up in containers and then eat off of it for a couple of days until I have to cook something else again. At the time I was, not a mother, I was single. So all I had to worry about was myself. He lived on the other side of town as me. He lived close to his job, and the commute that it would have taken him to go from where I stayed to where he worked would be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half, just depending on traffic. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. But I allowed him to be too comfortable, right? It's like, yeah, you can come to my house and chill. We'll watch a movie. I've always been a generous person. If you come over and I've cooked something, I will offer you some food. Hey, would you like me to make you a plate? I made this. But the intention is for me to pack up the rest of my food and put it in my containers in the refrigerator, right? So he comes over. It got good to him, right? I made him a plate. And he enjoyed it, okay? It was not a serious enough situation where it was like he was staying over. But I just felt like now all of a sudden, every day you want to come and eat dinner and drive all the way back to your place. It's just like, that's why they said you should never feed a wild animal. This is why, okay? So now you're coming back every day. And offering nothing. You're just coming to eat my food and leave. So now I'm just like, okay, I'm a little bit annoyed because you're not that fun to hang out with. So one day, I meal prep and I make, how they sell the bags of rice by the pound. So I buy a small bag of rice and I make the entire bag because I, again, am putting it in my containers to eat off of for the week. So I have a full pot of rice. So I cook my food first. I make my plate that I'm going to eat first. So while I'm eating my plate of food that I made, he knocks on the door. I knew he was coming over. And he said, "Oh, did you cook?" "Yeah, you know I cook. That's why you're over here," right? So I go in, he gets comfortable. He's sitting on my couch. We're watching whatever, a movie. I go make him a plate. So I portion it out where it's like, okay, like here's your plate that I'm giving you. And then I just leave the pot on the stove because when I come back in after I'm done eating to clean the kitchen, that's when I'll clean everything up and put it in the containers. So he's scraping the plate, right? He's like hoovering everything down. I'm not paying him any attention because I'm like, so he goes, "Oh, this was so good. Can I go back and get some more?" So I said, yeah, go ahead. Right. I said, like, the stuff's still on the stove. So you might have to heat it up because it's been, sitting for a couple of minutes. He's like, "Oh, no, I'm good. So I hear from the other room, I had the rice in a pot and I had the food that I had on top of it, like the vegetables and the protein or whatever. I had that in a cast iron skillet covered up. I heard the skillet being scraped, the scraping noise of the skillet. So I'm like, maybe I need to get up and see what's going on in there. So he comes out. He has a mountain of food on his plate, a mountain of food. So I said, "Is that all the food off the stove?" This man gets indignant, belligerent. Yeah, because I'm hungry. I've been at work all day and you give me that small plate, like fussing, right? So I am frozen. I cannot believe. So I go in the kitchen, the entire pot of rice and all of the food out of the pan scraped on his plate. And he's sitting there just with the audacity, eating all of my food that I was supposed to eat off of for at least the next 2 days, right? And he's going on and on, like, "You've been home all day. I've been at work," as if this is your home, as if you contributed anything to the food that was being cooked. as if you were my damn man, right? This is crazy. This is crazy. So the next day was his day off, right? So I said, okay, so since we're behaving this way, I'm thinking to myself, you must pay for groceries. This is cool, right? So he asked me what I'm doing. I said, I have some things to do, but you can meet me here at about 5, right? So he comes like clockwork, all, because his day off, he's dressed nice. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll drive. So I drive, I go to the car wash to wash my car. And this was the first sign of like, not the first sign, but another major red flag. You take your car through the car wash, and then I park and I go to vacuum it out. He's sitting in the car. He's sitting in the car scrolling. So when I open his side of the door, I said, excuse me, I need to vacuum. He gets out, he sits on the wall and is just like on his phone. So there's a lady parked next to us and she's like, come here. You need to get rid of him. I said, don't even worry. This is the last hurrah. I'm like, I'm seeing this and I'm just as disgusted as you, right? Mountain of food on his plate. That all the food off the stove? This man gets indignant, belligerent. Yeah, because I'm hungry. You know I've been at work all day and you give me that small plate. Like I go in the kitchen, the entire pot of rice and all of the food out of the pan scrapes on his plate, eating all of my food that I was supposed to eat off of for at least the next 2 days.
And I would have knocked that shit on the floor because, one, who are you talking to like that in my house? You don't pay a motherfucking bill here and you don't live here. And 2, if I can't eat it, bitch, nobody can eat it. For context, go back and watch her entire story for context, but I'll give you the cliff notes. This is a man that she's dating. She's not even in a relationship with this man. He doesn't live there, doesn't pay her bills, and was going over her house multiple times a week to eat her food and leave. And when I tell you I would have knocked that shit over, I'm not saying that figuratively. Matter of fact, here's my own personal story time. Messy. I was dating a guy that worked for Tyrese, and we were at the Edmonds Tower in Hollywood. Now, yes, that singer Tyrese, and the Edmonds Towers in Hollywood was owned by Babyface. Yes, that Babyface, Kenneth Brian Edwards. But anyways, so he was doing a session, editing some stuff for a Tyrese song, whatever. Anyways, I was there with my boo, and across the street there was like this deli that had like sandwiches and chili cheese fries and all these different things. So we go across the street, we go pick up the food, and we come back upstairs. And of course, the guy that I'm with is a gentleman and he's carrying all the food. We get back into the studio. I sit next to him, obviously, and he is taking out the food. He takes out his food, puts it to the side. So I'm thinking like, oh, how sweet, he's going to give me my chili cheese fries first. Wrong. He takes out my chili cheese fries, opens them, and starts to eat them. And when I reach for them, he's joking and pulls my food away from me while his food is still on the side of him. So you mean to tell me you're going to open up my food and start eating it while you're holding your own food hostage? And when I reach for my own plate, you take my plate away from me like we're 5 years old? So I knock the fucking chili cheese fries on the floor. And he's like, this is Tyrese's studio. I'm at work. Why would you do that? Why would you play with my fucking food? If you want to be funny, I could be hilarious. If you want to act like a child, I can act like a toddler. I don't understand that. I never thought playing with my food was funny. I never thought a man playing with me, withholding resources, was fucking funny, bitch. I don't like to be teased. It's another form of nagging to me, but I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know. And this was some time ago. I was much younger. I wouldn't behave like that now per se. I would just fucking leave, baby, and you would never hear from me again because how old are you? You know what I'm saying? What are we doing here? I'm not telling y'all to be violent, but sometimes you really have to match these men's energy and stop being so nice. I was 18 years old and this man was 25.